You have a bottle of apple cider vinegar in your kitchen right now. I'm almost certain of it. It's probably in the back of a cabinet somewhere, wedged behind the soy sauce and that spice you bought in 2019 that you've never once touched. Maybe someone told you to drink it, you tried it, made a face like you just licked a car battery, and quietly put the lid back on and walked away. And that bottle has been sitting there ever since, quietly, patiently, collecting dust and judging you. But here's what nobody told you. That bottle might be one of the most powerful metabolic tools in your entire kitchen, and the real reason it works for weight loss has almost nothing to do with what most people think. Today we're going to fix that. Let's get into it. This is Bright Future Health, where we translate real science into something you can actually use. If you're new here, subscribe. We put out videos like this every week. Quick disclaimer before we go any further. Nothing in this video is medical advice. If you have health conditions or you're on medications, have a conversation with your naturopathic doctor before adding anything new to your routine. We're here to educate, not prescribe. Now, before we get into what apple cider vinegar actually does in your body, I need to knock down a myth that's been floating around. Because a lot of people are getting the why completely wrong, and understanding the real reason is what makes this actually useful. We've got 10 things to cover today that most apple cider vinegar videos never mention. Let's go. Okay, so the first thing I have to do is correct something, and it's a mistake a lot of people make. The common assumption is that apple cider vinegar is healthy because it's loaded with vitamins, minerals, and nutrients from the apples. Natural source healthy fruit must be nutritious, right? Not really. Apple cider vinegar doesn't have significant vitamins or minerals. That is not the source of its power. What actually does the work is one compound, acetic acid. That's the organic acid produced when bacteria ferment the alcohol from apple juice. It's what gives vinegar its sharp, almost aggressive sour taste. And it carries a pH of about 2.5, which is highly acidic. And before you go, wait, I'm drinking acid? Yes. And that's kind of the whole point. Everything we're about to cover runs through that acidity. Keep that in your mind as we go. Point 1, the pH problem nobody is talking about. And here's where things start getting interesting. We live in a culture absolutely obsessed with alkalizing the body, alkaline water, alkaline diets, people talking about pH like they're managing a swimming pool. And look, I get the appeal. Alkaline sounds healthy, acidic sounds scary, but here's the reality. Different parts of your body are supposed to run at completely different pH levels, and some of those levels are supposed to be very acidic. Your blood needs to stay almost perfectly neutral, between 7.35 and 7.45. That's non-negotiable for survival. But your stomach is supposed to be highly acidic, a pH of 1 to 3. That's not a problem. That is the design. That is how it works. And here's the issue. A significant number of people are actually too alkaline in places where they need to be more acidic, especially the stomach. It happens gradually with age, with chronic stress, with long-term medication use, with a diet heavy in processed food. Stomach acid quietly drops. And when it drops, the entire digestive process starts running badly. Apple cider vinegar, pH 2.5, helps restore that acidic environment back to where it belongs. Think of your stomach like a high-performance food processor. It has to run at a specific power setting to actually do its job. When it's too alkaline, it's like running on the lowest setting. Things get partially broken down, but never properly processed. Apple cider vinegar helps dial it back up to where it needs to be. What this means for you: if food consistently sits heavy after meals, if you feel sluggish after eating, if digestion is just slow, this pH imbalance might be at the root of it. And apple cider vinegar before meals is a simple, cheap starting point. Point 2, the acid reflux paradox that will flip your thinking. Okay. This next one. I need you to actually sit with this because it runs directly against what most people have been told their entire lives. The standard story about acid reflux and heartburn goes like this. Too much stomach acid. Acid comes up. You feel burning. Take an antacid to reduce the acid. Makes perfect sense on the surface. That's why antacids are a multi-billion-dollar industry. Here's the thing though. In most cases of chronic acid reflux, the problem is not too much acid, it's too little. Here's the anatomy. At the very bottom of your esophagus, the tube connecting your throat to your stomach, there's a muscular valve called the lower esophageal sphincter. This valve is supposed to open when food passes through and then close tight to keep everything in the stomach where it belongs. That valve gets its signal to close from the concentration of acid in the stomach. High enough acidity sends a strong, "we're good, seal up" signal, and the valve closes properly. But when stomach acid is too low, too alkaline, that signal is weak. The valve stays loose. Stomach contents drift back up into the esophagus. That burning you feel? It's the small amount of acid that is there touching your esophagus, which is not built to handle it. So the fix is not less acid in the stomach. The fix is more acid, so the valve gets the signal it needs and closes properly. Apple cider vinegar before meals helps increase that gastric acidity, which strengthens the valve signal, which stops the reflux. What this means for you, if you've been on antacids for years and the reflux keeps coming back, this could be why apple cider vinegar is worth exploring. Have the conversation with your naturopathic doctor, especially if you're on prescription acid blockers long term. Point 3, you are not what you eat, you are what you absorb. Here's something that genuinely changed the way I think about nutrition, and I think it'll do the same for you. You can eat a perfectly designed diet, all the right foods, all the right supplements, and if your stomach acid is too low, your body cannot properly absorb a large portion of those nutrients. They go in, they don't get used, they come out the other end. You are essentially paying for premium fuel that never reaches the engine. Minerals specifically, calcium, magnesium, iron, zinc, potassium, require a highly acidic environment in the stomach to be properly broken out of their food matrix and made available for absorption. The acid is what opens them up and releases them. Without that acidity, they pass through the digestive system largely intact and largely wasted. And the deficiencies that follow from this? They show up as symptoms that nobody thinks to connect to digestion: persistent fatigue, muscle cramps, poor sleep, weak bones, slow metabolism, brittle nails. You see a doctor, they might find low magnesium or low iron, they give you more of it, but if the absorption problem isn't fixed, you're still not getting what you need. Apple cider vinegar, by restoring proper stomach acidity, restores the absorption process. Think of it like finally oiling a rusty lock after years of it barely turning. Suddenly the key works again. What this means for you, if you're doing everything right nutritionally and still feel depleted, absorption may be where you're losing the battle. Apple cider vinegar before meals is one of the simplest interventions you can try. Point 4, the protein-bile enzyme chain. Nobody talks about. Your stomach acid doesn't just sit there being acidic, it triggers a sequence, a chain reaction of digestive events. And if the first domino doesn't fall, none of the others do either. Here's how the chain works. When food enters your stomach and the acidity is at the right level, it activates a key digestive enzyme called pepsin. Pepsin is specifically designed to break down protein completely, properly, into the individual amino acids your body can actually build with. But here's where it gets really interesting. That successful protein breakdown sends a signal downstream. It tells your gallbladder to release bile, the substance that breaks down dietary fats, and it tells your pancreas to release its own digestive enzymes to handle carbohydrates. The whole system runs in sequence, each step triggering the next. When stomach acid is low and pepsin never activates properly, that downstream signal never fires, bile stays in the gallbladder, pancreatic enzymes underperform, you end up with partially digested proteins, unprocessed fats, and carbohydrates that don't break down the way they should. Result: bloating, gas, that specific kind of heavy discomfort after meals that makes you want to just lie down and not exist for a while. Apple cider vinegar helps fire that first domino, restoring stomach acidity so pepsin can activate and the whole chain can run properly. What this means for you: chronic bloating and post-meal discomfort, especially after protein-heavy meals, often starts with this chain failing at step 1. Apple cider vinegar before meals can help restart the whole sequence. Point 5, blood sugar, insulin, and the real weight loss mechanism. Okay. Here's the one, the actual weight loss mechanism. And I want to explain this properly because the surface version you usually hear doesn't tell you the real why. When you eat carbohydrates, bread, rice, pasta, fruit, sugar, anything sweet or starchy, your body breaks it down into glucose. That glucose enters the bloodstream. Your blood sugar rises, your pancreas detects the rise, and releases a hormone called insulin. Insulin's job is to take that glucose out of the blood and deliver it somewhere, either to your cells as energy or into fat storage. Now here's the part that matters for weight loss. When glucose floods into the blood fast from a high-carb meal or sugary drink, the pancreas has to release a large surge of insulin to deal with it quickly. That big insulin surge does its job, but it also triggers fat storage mode. Elevated insulin is a direct signal to your body, do not burn fat right now. We are managing a glucose situation. Apple cider vinegar, specifically the acetic acid, slows the rate at which carbohydrates are broken down and absorbed into your bloodstream. It puts a speed governor on that. Glucose delivery. Instead of a spike, you get a slower, steadier rise, which means a smaller insulin response, which means your body doesn't flip into full-on fat storage mode after every meal. And on top of that, research shows apple cider vinegar directly improves something called insulin sensitivity. That means your cells respond better to the insulin that is released, so your body needs to produce less of it to get the job done. Less insulin overall means more time spent in fat-burning mode throughout the day. Think of insulin like a taxi driver and glucose like the passenger. A blood sugar spike is like 100 people calling taxis at exactly the same moment. Total chaos, gridlock, everybody's stressed. Apple cider vinegar spaces out the calls so traffic flows normally, everyone gets where they're going efficiently, and the fat-burning lanes stay open. What this means for you, if you're trying to lose weight, especially that stubborn midsection weight. Keeping insulin low and steady is one of the most important metabolic moves you can make. Apple cider vinegar before meals is one of the cheapest, most practical tools to help do exactly that. Point 6. Apple cider vinegar and your thyroid, the metabolism thermostat. This one gets almost no coverage in apple cider vinegar conversations, and I genuinely do not understand why. Your thyroid gland, small butterfly-shaped sitting right in your neck, is the thermostat for your entire metabolism. It controls how fast or slow your body burns energy at rest. When thyroid function is optimal, your metabolism runs efficiently. When it's sluggish, everything slows. Weight loss becomes harder. Energy drops, body temperature dips, mood follows. Here's the link to apple cider vinegar. Thyroid hormone utilization, how well your cells actually respond to and use the hormones your thyroid is producing, is affected by the body's pH environment. When things are too alkaline, particularly in the stomach and digestive system, thyroid hormone signaling at the cellular level can become impaired. The hormones are being made, they're just not landing properly. Restoring proper acidity through apple cider vinegar can support better thyroid hormone utilization throughout the body. Clear disclaimer: this is not a thyroid treatment. Apple cider vinegar does not replace thyroid medication. But the pH-thyroid metabolism connection is documented, real, and almost never discussed in mainstream health content. What this means for you if you've been eating right, moving your body, doing all the right things, and still can't get your metabolism to respond, this connection is worth exploring with your naturopathic doctor, and apple cider vinegar is a very low-risk place to start. Point 7. Stress is literally stealing your stomach acid. Here's one that's going to make you look at stress a little differently. And by differently, I mean with more alarm. Chronic stress, the low-grade, relentless, background kind that most of us just accept as the texture of modern life, raises a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone, useful in short, controlled bursts, actively damaging when it's elevated constantly. And here's what chronic cortisol does to your stomach specifically. It suppresses acid production. Your body makes a decision, consciously on a biological level, that digestion is not the priority when you're under constant perceived threat. Resources get redirected. Stomach acid drops. So now you have the alkaline stomach problem we talked about. The digestive chain doesn't fire, minerals don't absorb, the thyroid signal gets noisy, fat burning slows. All tracing back to the fact that your nervous system thinks you're running from something. Apple cider vinegar can help compensate for some of that cortisol-driven acid suppression. It's not a stress solution. You still have to address what's actually stressing you because cortisol has wide-ranging effects that go well beyond digestion. But as a practical daily support, apple cider vinegar helps hold the digestive line while you do the bigger work. What this means for you: stress management is a metabolic strategy, not just a mental health one. And apple cider vinegar is one simple thing you can do every day to partially offset what stress is doing to your digestive chemistry. Point 8. Your immune system's first line of defense. Here's something most people never think about when they think about their stomach. Your stomach is not just a digestion chamber, it's a security checkpoint. Every single time you eat or drink, every meal, every sip of water, you are ingesting bacteria, potential pathogens, and other microorganisms along with your food, and your stomach's primary weapon against them is acid. Strong, concentrated, properly acidic stomach acid kills the vast majority of harmful organisms before they ever make it to your small intestine. When stomach acid is low, when the checkpoint is understaffed, more of those pathogens survive the journey. They get into the gut. They disrupt the balance of your microbiome. They trigger low-grade inflammation, and your immune system ends up spending enormous energy just managing a gut environment that should have been handled upstream. Apple cider vinegar's acetic acid has documented antimicrobial properties. It directly inhibits the growth of harmful bacteria, fungi, and pathogens. It's not replacing your immune system, but as a daily input, it helps reinforce that gastric checkpoint so it can actually do its job. What this means for you, if you seem to catch every bug that goes around, or if you have chronic gut issues that just won't fully resolve, the stomach acid piece is very much worth paying attention to. Apple cider vinegar is one of the most practical ways to start strengthening that first line of defense. Point 9. Where your calcium is actually going. This one genuinely surprised me when I first came across it, so I'm curious what you think. Calcium is supposed to go to your bones and your teeth. That's the address. That's where it lives. But when your body is too alkaline, when pH is off, calcium stops being directed properly. Instead of reinforcing bone structure, it starts depositing in places it has absolutely no business being. Soft tissue, joint spaces, the kidneys, the lens of the eye. The result: joint stiffness, calcification, kidney stones, even cataracts. Not necessarily from eating too much calcium, but from calcium being sent to the wrong address, because the body's sorting system is broken by alkalinity. Apple cider vinegar helps restore the acidic environment that allows calcium to be properly absorbed, properly utilized, and properly directed into your bones and teeth where it actually belongs, not into your soft tissue where it causes problems. And there's a potassium dimension here too. When the body is too alkaline, potassium gets chemically locked up, present but not available. Low usable potassium shows up as muscle weakness, leg cramps, constipation, and fluid retention. Apple cider vinegar helps free up that potassium so your body can actually access it. What this means for you: unexplained joint stiffness, muscle cramps, or water retention that doesn't respond to the usual fixes might have a mineral availability cause. Apple cider vinegar before meals is worth adding to the conversation. Point 10. Apple cider vinegar is completely fasting compatible. And the last point, because you stuck around and you deserve it. For those of you who practice intermittent fasting or have been thinking about trying it, the most common apple cider vinegar question is, does it break the fast? Short answer: no. 1 to 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar contains essentially 0 carbohydrates and about 3 calories. It will not spike insulin. It will not interrupt ketosis. It will not knock you out of a fasted state. What it will do during a fast: acetic acid influences ghrelin, your primary hunger hormone, helping curb appetite and making the fasting window feel significantly more manageable. It also helps stabilize blood sugar during the fast, which reduces the energy dips and cravings that make fasting hard. Best way to use it: 1 to 2 tablespoons diluted in 8 to 12 ounces of water, about 15 to 30 minutes before your first meal. Always dilute it. Straight apple cider vinegar is rough on tooth enamel in the esophagus, and use a straw if you want to go the extra mile on protecting your teeth. What this means for you: apple cider vinegar and intermittent fasting genuinely complement each other. If you're already fasting, adding apple cider vinegar makes it easier and more effective. If you're not fasting yet, apple cider vinegar before meals still delivers most of the same benefits. Opinion: the most underrated bottle in your kitchen. Okay, I need to get something off my chest. Apple cider vinegar might be the single most overlooked and underutilized piece of kitchen medicine in existence. And honestly, that frustrates me. We live in a world where people spend $50, $60, $100 a month on health supplements, metabolism boosters, and weight loss products, and meanwhile, in the back of their own kitchen cabinet, there's a bottle of something that supports digestion, blood sugar, mineral absorption, thyroid function, immune defense, cortisol compensation, fat burning, and weight management for $3 that they already bought. That's been sitting there quietly collecting dust. This is not new science. Apple cider vinegar has been used as a health remedy for literally thousands of years. Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, the man the Hippocratic Oath is named after, reportedly used vinegar to support digestion and general wellness. We are talking about ancient, documented knowledge that somehow got downgraded over the centuries until it ended up filed under salad dressing ingredient and completely forgotten. And look, I love a good vinaigrette. A properly made vinaigrette is a thing of beauty. I have no issue with the vinaigrette, but if the only job apple cider vinegar has in your life is dressing a salad twice a year, you are leaving an enormous amount of value sitting in that cabinet. That bottle deserves better, and honestly, so does your metabolism. Before we wrap, I want to know something. Drop a comment below and tell me, did you already have a bottle of apple cider vinegar in your kitchen when you started watching this? And now that you understand what it actually does, are you going to use it differently? I'm genuinely curious. I read every comment. All right, let's land this. 10 things acetic acid does in your body. It restores proper stomach pH. It solves the acid reflux paradox by giving the esophageal valve the signal it needs to close. It unlocks mineral absorption so your body can actually use what you're eating. It fires the protein-bile enzyme chain reaction that runs your whole digestive system. It slows blood sugar spikes and lowers the insulin response, which is the actual weight loss mechanism. It supports thyroid hormone utilization and metabolism. It compensates for cortisol-driven acid loss from chronic stress. It reinforces your gastric immune checkpoint. It helps direct calcium properly and frees up potassium. And it's fully compatible with intermittent fasting. All of that from that bottle in the back of your cabinet, sitting next to the mystery spice, covered in dust, waiting. So here's your challenge. And I mean this as a real challenge, not just something to say. For the next 2 weeks, 1 to 2 tablespoons of organic, raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar. Bragg's is the brand I recommend. Look for with the mother on the label, diluted in a glass of water, 15 to 30 minutes before your main meal. Use a straw, give it 2 genuine weeks. Then come back here, leave a comment, tell me what changed. I will be reading them all. If this video helped connect some dots for you, share it with someone who could use it. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and that $3 bottle that's been waiting patiently in your cabinet this whole time, it's ready whenever you are. See you in the next one. Take care of yourself and bring that bottle out of retirement.